Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 66 of Talking Elite. I am your host, the bearded wonder, Adam Galaxy. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. Tonight's episode, very big, interesting topic for all of us here at All Elite Zone, as well as all fans of pro wrestling. We are talking about the state of pro wrestling, all pro wrestling right now, AEW, WWE, TNA, the independents. We are going to talk everything about it. But before we get started on that, I'd like to introduce the panel tonight. First, one of our favorite people from the Midwest. She usually has her cue cards. Don't have them tonight, but it's fine. We'll let it pass. But she is Wardlow's biggest fan and Tony Khan's earpiece right now because she really wants to get inside his mind. Danny, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, really good. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
And also joining us tonight, as always, our favorite producer. Again, without him, this show wouldn't even exist. We wouldn't get to talk about topics like this of all pro wrestling. Mr. Connor. Connor, how you doing tonight, bud?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited about this one. Last week was a really good episode. This week should be no different. So, it should be a good show.
Right. And, I really thank you guys for coming on tonight because this has been eating me alive for the last few months, this topic of the whole state of pro wrestling. A lot of things have happened in the last year in the world of pro wrestling, as far as people leaving companies, people appearing in companies after leaving companies, people being let go of their own companies, and the fan bases of all these companies. But before we jump right into it, I want to start off. We are all elite. We are focused on AEW. I just want to get your guys' feelings and views on last night's Dynamite. What you guys think of it, Danny?
It was interesting, and I feel like, and I'm going to use the word interesting because after last week, the footage from All In being released, it was just interesting to see where the whole storyline with that is going, if you would, with the Bucks and FTR. I thought it was a great segment with Swerve and Joe. And I was just talking with my husband earlier. We're planning All Out again this year. We're going to wait and just see if we get SummerSlam tickets first. We're going to SummerSlam. If All Out goes on sale first and they're cheaper, we're going to go to All Out. But I'm kind of excited just to see, where this is going to go. I'm actually working. Dynasty is it Saturday or Sunday? I think it's Sunday. Saturday. I'm actually working a 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday. So I'm going to miss it, but I'll be keeping up with it on Twitter.
Yeah, it'll be Sunday, the 21st. It's actually happening in St. Louis, which is like a 4-hour drive for me. I was very debating on driving to it last second, but I think I'll just watch it on pay-per-view.
I think it's like 5.5 from where I am, at least.
Yeah. Connor, what's your thoughts on Dynamite last night?
I thought it was pretty good. There was certain, I thought the majority of it was pretty good. There was some things that I don't know why they're doing, like the Jericho and Hook stuff, and I'm glad they're doing the Bullet Club Gold and Acclaim stuff. Just do the match, get it over with. Don't want to see it again because they haven't had the match. Just do the match, be done with it. I thought the best match last night, I thought was that trios match between the Young Bucks and Okada versus Penta, Pac, and Garcia. That was a really, really good match. I thought the story build-up for Joe and Swerve was really good. I like how not last night, but the week before, Joe and Swerve opened the show and they closed the show, which that's how it should be with your world title leading up to pay-per-view. There were some stories I thought could have used a little bit better build with like Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm. I thought Deanna and Tony was a little bit better build. But it was overall pretty good build. Not a pretty good go-home show to Dynasty. So, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know I was going to jump on the live reaction, but never got to. I got so comfortable on the couch watching Dynamite and just kind of sunk in. And I was just like, I'm just going to enjoy it, and I did enjoy it. I enjoyed the opening Moxley promo. I don't care what a lot of people say. I know Moxley has this stigma to him of, he bleeds in all the matches. He does this, does that. but the man can still shoot a promo. And he's very emotional when he shoots his promos. And it was actually commented on by Bully Ray on Busted Open, who said that was like a hoorah moment, for not just Bully Ray, or not just for Moxley, but all of AEW, saying that none of this was possible when they said 5 years ago I'd win this title and it'd appear on AEW TV. And so it was basically him saying that, a lot of people didn't think it was possible for him, but then also a lot of people didn't think it was possible for AEW to be sustainable as long as they have been right now. And I did like the way he pushed over Powerhouse Hobbs. I think Powerhouse Hobbs deserves to be that pushed. Mm-hmm. The guy can work, and someone like Moxley, a locker room leader who pushes that, it looks great in my eye. I did enjoy the trios match. It's good storytelling. The women's match was fantastic. The opening contest, the mixed tag match, I liked it because it protected Julia Hart from doing more in-ring work to kind of keep her ready for Sunday if she's still dealing with that injury. And it kind of keeps the mystique over the whole who attacked Willow. Is it the same person who attacked Mercedes? And who is that? What's going on? So the story the story kind of continues there. And then I think the match for me last night that really did it for me, I hate to be biased because I like the guy, but the main event with Claudio and Will. I'm a big Ospreay guy. I love his work. I love his promos. And him and Claudio just put on a clinic last night in the ring, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love how it flowed. There was that little bit of even that part where he did the Hurricane, where he did the little spin around Claudio to do the Hurricane Rana. I think he was supposed to get more rotations, but he kind of tumbled, but Claudio just completed the move, and it just looked fluent, and it just continued the match. So it looked like it could have been more rotations in that, but the way that Claudio finished it off and flowed with it made it look seamless, like it was meant to be like that. So, and then obviously the main segment of the world title, bout between Joe and Swerve, I think was great. And overall, it felt like a real Dynamite show. It felt great. It felt like it was getting back to its roots a little bit, apart from last week's shenanigans of the all-in footage and all that crap. But I will say, yes, I think one thing I can agree with you on that, Connor, is the whole Jericho thing going on with him and Hook. I think listen, Jericho's a legend in the sport of pro wrestling. There's no doubt about that. But I feel like his time has come and gone. And I feel like it's right for him to kind of move on to almost like either a manager role or even someone as a backstage producer. For the product. I think, he's done everything he had. He's won tons of world titles, singles titles. He's wrestled so many people. I think it's time for him to move on. So overall, I did enjoy Dynamite last night. Very, very great product put on last night, better than recent weeks, and I'm very happy about that as an AEW fan, apart from how we were feeling last week, being embarrassed about what happened with it. Even though read an article today, the company that uses that streams AEW, that they were very happy with the numbers of AEW when they did that segment. So it did something, and I guess that worked. So hats off for AEW to getting back to great roots this week and storytelling. So with that, we move on to tonight's topic, which is basically the state of pro wrestling. We have all these companies out there, obviously the two or three of them, obviously WWE and AEW, and I'll even throw TNA in there as probably one of the three companies that everybody's familiar with, as viewing public. And so I want to get your guys' thoughts on this real quick. As far as the rat race goes, do you think there's any catching up to WWE right now as far as just storytelling, product on TV? I know we're supposed to talk about having our own kind of thing, being our own product. But is there any way that any of these, other wrestling companies are, pushing fire underneath WWE's ass, as to say? Danny, what are your thoughts on that?
To answer that question, I'm going to say it's kind of like the candle lighter that you light, the long stem that you light the candles. And it's like the little spark that you get when you have a little juice left in that lighter. And it's a little bit, but it's not something that's going to make you notice it. And I feel like with AEW, if they want to catch up, it's like the Taylor Swift song Blank Space. When she goes, I'll write your name, they have to have a direction. They need to have storylines to get more of those viewers, and releasing that footage is not the way to do that.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a lowball decision to do that footage.
Yeah.
It was kind of a ratings grab for that segment, because you're showing footage of someone who doesn't even work there anymore.
Right.
And that's someone who hasn't been there since that incident, who's been suspended. Although I do feel there is a Jack Perry return in the near future here. But still, showing that footage kind of damaged your look as a company. Connor, what about your thoughts? What are your thoughts on these companies chasing basically the mecca of pro wrestling, which is WWE?
I don't think anyone will ever come close to, being on the same heights as WWE. Like, they've been around for 40, 50 plus years. It's just not possible. Like, the XFL going against the NFL, like, come on, they're not going to knock out the NFL. In terms of like gaining an audience and stuff like that, I think TNA is doing a pretty decent job of that. They've the loss of Scott D'Amore really did hurt the backstage environment just by Motor City Machine Guns leaving. But they still are signing people. They signed Alexander Hammerstone. They're doing a very good job, a very better job than years past. With AEW, I think they've done a lot of stuff to give people a reason to not want to watch. Like what happened last week, and other stuff. Like, they've done a lot of things to push people away. I thought last night was a good episode in the right direction, but they got to be consistent. Like, it's going to be tough, because when you lose fans, it's hard to gain them back. And you also want to attract that casual audience. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, especially on the internet trolls. You got to have some stuff that you can create new fans with. It's always good to create new wrestling fans, because those casual fans can turn into weekly viewers, and then they become wrestling fans for the rest of their lives. I think last night was good. It was a good show in the right direction. They just got to be more consistent. But I don't think anyone will ever match up to, like WWE's place. WCW had that shot and they blew it. I thought that was the only company that had a shot. But yeah, I think they just got to be more consistent and make wise decisions.
Right, and
I was not meaning that to be a direction like Eric Bischoff. He has to show wise choices. I just said you got to make wise choices. I didn't mean that as a hint to Eric Bischoff.
No, and I think that's it. I think it's just you're pretty much just preaching to the choir of Eric Bischoff, saying, "Listen, you could have done it if you made other choices." It's not saying that you made bad choices. It just you made some of not the correct ones. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of agree with both your guys' points of, WWE is this conglomerate of just global phenomenon that just makes billions of dollars, no matter where it goes. I mean, look at their next pay-per-view. Their next pay-per-view Backlash is happening in France. It's crazy that they're doing that. Back in the day, they used to just keep it local, and then they started doing Canada shows, and then Attitude Era, they started doing the Europe tours, and now they're going back, now they're doing France. And that's going to be the transition. We'll start with WWE as it is the biggest thing in the state of pro wrestling. I mean, everybody dreams to end up there. They've got new ownership under TKO and Endeavor. Then you have leadership in Triple H now running the show as creative. The downside for me is Bruce Pritchard. I still don't know how I feel about him still being involved with WWE, considering what I've heard from past wrestlers of their experience with Bruce Pritchard. But for my next question to you guys, I want to get your guys' thoughts on the product of WWE. I mean, there was a while there where a lot of people weren't watching WWE because the product was just rough, and then you had the pandemic, so you had the Thunderdome feel of screens around the arena and didn't really feel the same. But now they're in this new era, and I'll start off with you, Danny. What does WWE have to do with this new direction they're going with all these new champions and now the draft coming up? What does WWE have to do to continue this high of one of their biggest WrestleManias in the history of the company?
I've said this before and I'll say it again, get rid of the draft. And while I understand that the draft can give us the dream matches, which it can, is it really needed? Just do what they did back in the day when you had people appearing on all kinds of shows. You had a run in, let's say on SmackDown, you've got KO, let KO do a run in on Raw. Or, Cody even said on Monday that he's a SmackDown guy and he thanked Adam for letting him be on the show on Monday. Let Cody do some more run-ins on Raw. Don't keep it where you've got KO drafted here, Cody here, Orton here, Sami Zayn here. Let them do run-ins. And that's because that's what we did back in the day. We did run-ins. You never knew who you were going to see on Nitro. You never knew who you were going to see on NWA Saturday nights. I fondly remember my Sunday mornings were at church. I was watching AWA wrestling because I grew up with that. Monday night, I was watching Prime Time. Saturday mornings, I was watching Challenge or Superstar. Sunday morning, I was watching the one at All American Wrestling. Saturday night, I was watching NWA WCW at 6:05 Eastern on TBS. So I basically lived to watch wrestling. And I just remember being pleasantly surprised all the time because you never knew who was going to be there. And now with the draft, if you know KO is going to be there, okay, KO is going to be on SmackDown. Well, how many matches the same is KO going to have versus if you let him go to Raw, have a match, let your Raw guys do run-ins on SmackDown?
Right, and I actually enjoy those days where you had multiple people on different shows before the draft. I mean, you had DX on, you got to remember SmackDown debuted in 99. So it was before the millennium. And so you had it pretty much geared towards The Rock, but you had guys from Raw there. Yeah. You still had guys from Raw show up. Let's not forget that in 2004, Chris Benoit, who was a SmackDown wrestler, and oh God, I brought up his name. Sorry. But, he was a SmackDown guy and he won the Royal Rumble, but he found a loophole to come to Raw. That was exciting times for us watching that. So I kind of understand with the draft, it's kind of a crazy, weird kind of concept of putting people on different shows, but it's at the same time, it's like, we've done it so many times that they still show up on the same shows.
Yeah.
And so to you, Connor, and one of the people made the comment, Jesse here, a few years ago, WWE, awful Triple H took over. Mm-hmm. Are we seeing some of that old school Attitude Era storylines and feel now that Hunter has taken over creative over at WWE to continue their wave from WrestleMania 40?
Yeah, I do feel like they're going in a more edgier way. I did see a report that the bigger names are going to be able to do, they don't have to abide by the PG rules, like, of course, The Rock, CM Punk, Rollins. I'd assume Randy Orton. So the bigger top guys are going to be able to do a little bit more edgier stuff, which is good. CM Punk can be as edgy as you want, as any edge you want him to get. Mm-hmm. He kind of hinted at that on the one that they were in Chicago. We kind of hinted like, we're not on Netflix yet. So when they go on Netflix, it seems like they're going to be a lot more edgier. I I think they're gonna get. I don't think it'll be quite like the Attitude Era. I don't think you'll see Sable coming out half naked or anything like that. But I think you'll see a little bit more edgier. I think you'll see a little bit more blood. Not every week, but I think they're gonna do it in certain matches. Kind of like they did with Rock and Cody. Wasn't a match, but that he actually bled. I think they're gonna do that a little bit more. Certain wrestlers are getting more serious now. Like the New Day, they're a little bit more serious now. I couldn't stand when they were. It just felt like it was about comedy more than wrestling. Like they're more worried about pancakes and cereal than actually wrestling. But I like the combination of both. R-Truth is real comedy-ish, and you also got some really good serious wrestlers like Bronson Reed, and Walter, and. But talking about the draft, I've always liked the draft, mainly because of the video games. I grew up in the video game era. That's why I like it. I used to like playing the MyGM mode. But it is a good way to use more people. But I liked when WWE did it originally. Like they would have certain nights where they would have Raw versus SmackDown. Like I remember in 2008 maybe, like SmackDown would come to Raw and they'd have a bunch of matches. Like they had The Undertaker versus Triple H, and they had Battle Royal. That had a lot of good matches. I think Triple H, or I hope he will do a better job with it than Vince McMahon did, because Vince McMahon, like after 2 weeks, that was it. Like you'd see SmackDown guys be on Raw, vice versa. But I trust Triple H more than I do Vince of doing things more right. But I think the WWE product you will see a little bit more edgier going forward.
Yeah, no, I do enjoy the new edginess of WWE, like the good old days of what WWE is. And I kind of remember, your take on the draft back in the day when they brought the guys over and they'd have these matches on Raw, on Raw, and actually they would have them on SmackDown too. And whatever person would win from either brand, that brand would win that pick of the draft.
That's the way I liked it.
And it was really cool. It was a really cool concept, But I agree with you that I think, if they do the draft, hopefully, I'm all honest with Danny here. I hope it's the last time they do the draft, get talent to where they need to be. Mm-hmm. Basically, this is going to be a shift of which networks really want what talent on their program. Basically, that's what this is going to be, this draft. Because like we had mentioned, starting 2025, Raw is going to Netflix. And then SmackDown, I believe, is going to USA Network, and NXT is going to the CW. So they're all moving around. So you got to have certain talent in certain locations of where you want those people to be. Now, speaking of Netflix, I want to get your guys' question about this. I know it's in the future, but what do you guys feel we're also going to see a change when they go to a streaming service instead of being on the regular TV of like USA Network? Like we've already mentioned, they're probably going to be more edgy because it's Netflix. But at the same time, what other things are we going to see? Are we going to still see like ads pop up on the Netflix because that's how they're going to make revenue? Or is it just going to be full stream, no commercials at all on Netflix? Danny, what are your thoughts?
I would say they're going to have some sort of corporate sponsorship. So we will have some sort of like ad placement on there that's going to pop up. I'm wondering if we're going to have more promos versus matches or more matches versus promos. I wonder if they're going to cut down on their backstage segments. Then again, that promo with Punk, Rollins, and Drew, that was in Chicago. I watched that segment like 6 times and could not get tired of the 3 of them talking. That's how good it was. So I'm kind of thinking ads, questionable about the wrestling. Are we going to have more promos that are going to be edgy like that? Like when Drew was like, oh, sit down, you might look up my kilt or something. I was cracking up at that whole segment. And then are we going to have more edgier backstage segments?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And speaking of which, with going to Netflix, Connor, I got to ask you, I mean, a lot of their stuff is still on Peacock. A lot of their library is on Peacock. Do you think we see kind of a contract kind of expiring with Peacock and moving all their library over to Netflix? or do you see another merger happening with Peacock and Netflix to where they both can keep the library of WWE?
So their deal with Peacock's coming up pretty soon. I look if they don't merge or anything like that, I think Netflix is going to take the whole library. I can see that happening because they got Raw, so it'd be best, like it'd be fitting to have the entire library to WWE, and they're already guaranteed like $2 billion, so that's even more money. That's another negotiation they'd be having. I can definitely see that. I was talking to someone about that. I could 100% see that happening. If Peacock loses WWE, that's going to really hurt them because a lot of people only subscribe to Peacock for WWE, me including. I watch other stuff like TED and stuff, but getting off the subject. Yeah, I definitely see that happening, and yeah, it'd be more fitting to have Raw, your weekly show, along with all your other stuff. Yeah, I think that's gonna happen unless they merge or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting that it's just crazy that one streaming service to another, they have to go through those channels of, hey, now we own them, your contract's up, they didn't want to resign with you, we need that whole library. Sometimes you see some legal battles with that, so but hopefully it goes smoothly for them. And while we're on the subject of streaming, let's focus on the other company that we talk about and why our channel was made was AEW. So there's still that talk of when does AEW go to streaming? Is it easier for it to go to streaming? There's still the talks with the Warner Brothers Discovery. Danny, for your prediction, where do you see this streaming service, talks go with AEW and WBD?
Oh boy, that's a really good question because, and again, it's been said in several groups, it's been said by several things that I've read this week. I was actually listening to Cornette the other day, and again, there's speculation that the leadership we know in AEW is questionable because of what has been going on, and the fact, and I say that because there have been people that have questioned why they needed to release the footage, for starters. Number two, the Warner Brothers Discovery, I'm wondering if WBD came to Tony Khan and said, we need a better product to put on our station, because for some people they're criticizing the storylines. But then if you also look at AEW, look at the fact that when Nitro was on, and we'll use Nitro for an example because 41 episodes more of AEW, Dynamite has lasted longer than Nitro once we get to, which I think is interesting. Number two, if you look at Nitro, they didn't really have a storyline, and the only ones we know, they have the NWO, then they have that debacle with the Horsemen where Jarrett wanted to become a Horseman, and then we had that like conflict with the Horsemen. Then I think Perfect went in it at some point, and then you had random people that showed up, wrestled a match, and were done. So that's kind of how I feel AEW is. But then I question too, what has been their response, and how are they feeling being that Tony Khan is on their network with all his rants on Twitter or the things that he's been saying about WWE and releasing this footage again of a guy who hasn't been there since September.
Right. Connor, to you, what is AEW, specifically the leadership of AEW, i.e. Tony Khan and everybody who's investors in it, what do they need to do to A, secure those rights to a streaming service, but B, kind of improve their product to kind of out what's the word I'm looking for, to kind of out the naysayers? So what is the plan that AEW has to take?
First, going off of first question was getting renewed, right? Like what?
Yes. What do they need to do to get that streaming service, but also, yes, with contracts?
So I mentioned today, Tony Khan did a media call and said that their next negotiation deal with WWE Discovery includes a library. So I don't know if that includes like Dynamite moving to HBO or Max, but I would assume it'd be like their streaming service, like basically like how WWE is to Peacock, AEW is to HBO Max. I think that's what they're going to do. You'll get to see all the pay-per-views. Everything will be on Max. But to get a very good, successful renewal, they gotta represent their company like it means something, and not like doing stuff on social media and calling Triple H out and all this, because it not only makes AEW look bad, but it makes the network look bad too, because they got someone on their network doing all that. And I'm pretty sure Tony would probably never talk about it, but I'm pretty sure they've told him some stuff they don't like. I mean, every network does that. Not even wrestling, I'm pretty sure they told Tony stuff they don't like. But product-wise, a lot of this bull crap with certain stuff people don't want, like Jericho stuff. Like, I like Jericho, one of the best of all time. The usage of him needs to be a little bit better. Like, he was supposed to be on Fozzy tour, so he was going to be gone for a while. I thought that was going to help, so when he comes back, it'd be fresh. We haven't seen him in a while. It's good to have Jericho back. I felt they need to fresh things up. I know a lot of people don't like Eric Bischoff, but Eric Bischoff had a very good point of you have your story A, story B, C, and D. Basically how AEW did last week. Story A is Swerve and Joe. That's the opening and the end of the show. If you really listen to a lot of stuff, it's really entertaining to watch. But I think they got to be more consistent. Continue to put really good storytelling on. It's good to have really good matches, because you want to have a mixture of both. Really good storytelling and matches. Like a lot of fans will say that fans who want stories just want AEW to be WWE. Well, you can have stories. I mean, stories has existed in any wrestling company throughout history. TNA, WCW, NWA. I mean, that's just been wrestling. You got to have a good mixture of good matches and stories. Something for everyone to watch. That's how, if you just have something for just one fan base, then you're not really trying to gain an audience. But yeah, they got to be more consistent. A lot of the stuff that shouldn't be going on, like stuff that people don't want, put stuff in its place that maybe people would like. Yeah, that's got to be more consistent.
Yeah, and I will say this before I make my point. The consistency of the Elite doing live commentary during their match lives on, and it happened last night during that trios match. For a lot of people remember Kenny Omega, I can't remember who he had a match with. It might have been John Moxley, that he was doing commentary for a little bit of the match with the microphone. They did it last night as well, so that kind of brought back the old feel of they did that before too. That's kind of cool. But to go with your guys' points, yeah, I think what it is again, the storytelling needs to be there, and they need to make the product more open and not just geared towards one audience base. These bases that people are like, oh, these people only watch New Japan, AEW, and Ring of Honor. Well, that's not true. We still watch TNA. I guarantee you there's a lot of AEW fans that still watch WWE just to see what they're doing and seeing what their product's doing. They're going to compare and contrast. And so I think the one thing they need to do, especially if they want to be successful with both networks and the streaming service, they got to get off their high horse and stop being petty towards another company. It's good for competition. It is good to do the undertone promos without even mentioning the other company. It can be done. You can write promos where you don't even say Triple H, Vince McMahon, WWE. You don't say those words. You just say, I'd rather be here than another company that does this, this, and this. You don't even have to say which company it is. People just know it's that undertone with their promos. And I think we've mentioned it so much with storytelling. We mentioned it on, I believe, Tuesday with Canada. If anybody is watching our Canada show, please check them out. They are awesome stuff. Maddie's doing great work over there as a host. But you got to check out some of the stuff there, because we talked about with storylines, there's got to be the and then what after the initial story. I believe Amer, Matt, and I all said that. We were like, there's got to be the, and then what with the story, so you just don't do one thing, be like, okay, we're going to do this, then the question is, okay, and then what? You got to keep it going. I mean, you look at WWE, they kept the same storyline for the last 3 years with the Bloodline. The longest the AEW did that with was the whole story of CM Punk and MJF. They ran that crap for a year. That was their longevity of that storytelling. But even the Hangman Page, Kenny Omega storyline went for almost a year as well. So they got to get back to that consistency of doing those kind of storylines. And I think we keep mentioning them, and I think it's the best idea they can do. And Connor, I will say thank you for sending me the link to it, but they got to get Scott D'Amore. They have to get Scott D'Amore. If they want to write the track and make AEW something different and make the product successful, you get someone who understands a business and understands the wrestling like Scott D'Amore. What he did, and people will know I'm a big TNA nut. I love TNA. I started watching it for a while when it started debuting, back when, Ken Shamrock was there, Ron Killings, a.k.a., R-Truth. They were all there. I was watching that product, and then, you had Kurt Angle show up. Samoa Joe was there. AJ Styles. They had a great roster. And they're still doing great stuff today. They have a great roster today. And so they need to get someone with the mind of Scott D'Amore. You bring Scott D'Amore in to do the creative stuff. Let Tony Khan take a step back and be more of the owner and CEO and run the business side instead of the creative side. Then your product's going to turn around. Then you're going to have longevity and story. You look at TNA. Scott D'Amore wrote a story with Josh Alexander, and Moose. Those two had a story for a year. They went back and forth for a year. That's how good storytelling is over there. And I'll tell you this, TNA, they don't have a big crowd. They don't have a big audience, but they have that fan base. I'm included. I love their product. It is great stuff. It is great wrestling, great talent, great storytelling. The backstage promos are great. They don't have the greatest production value, but hell, I watch the hell out of them. Same with AEW. I enjoy it. They don't have high production value, but I intrigue with the storytelling, and they have to get on that right path and kind of stop the undertone of the whole saying WWE stuff all the time. So moving on with that, let's get to independence. Well, let's talk about TNA first, since we're talking about them already. And Danny, I know you're not too familiar with TNA. I know we talked before the show started that you were trying to find more shows, but how do you feel about TNA? Do you feel their product's good enough for their fan base, gets people talking still? Or, do you think you see them as one of these kind of like minor league wrestling companies like the old school ECW that gets pillaged for their talent? So, I mean, what would you believe?
So when I watched TNA, and I've said this before, I watched it back, oh shoot. Who I watched it when Crimson was there. Crimson, so that was like 2004.
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5. Yeah. I remember Crimson. Yep.
Yeah, I liked Crimson. I remember watching it when Mr. Anderson was there. And he is from, and I've always liked him. He's actually from Wisconsin.
Yep.
And I remember watching it when they did the Aces and Eights. And like I said, then my cable company ended up dropping the channel that I couldn't watch it, and I didn't keep up with it anymore. And one thing that I always liked about TNA was that it was different. It was smaller. It was a smaller, set, smaller ring, but the characters were more creative. They were more creative on the side of abstract. And I use abstract because it's something you don't expect. Whereas WWE, this is created by a marketing guy who then takes you down to OVW, then puts you in a ring and trains you what to do. Whereas the TNA guys, they knew what to do from being, independents, yet they were more creative because it was original and it wasn't created by a guy in marketing. That was one thing that I liked that I remember about TNA, and just some of the names that I knew, such as Angle, such as Jarrett. Who else was in there? Angle, Jarrett, Bully Ray, Mr. Anderson. So a lot of those people I knew from WWE, but then to see a guy like Crimson or to see Jesse Sorensen, Eddie Edwards and Davey, who was he? Davey Richards. Yeah, the Wolves. Like to see those guys because I didn't know them, and that's what drew me in to that product. Now I have to figure out who this Josh Alexander guy is. I know who Moose is. Now I have to see Nick Nemeth. So now I've got my post-it somewhere. Thanks, Adam. So now we're going to start watching it.
So there you go.
With more of it.
There you go. Yeah, Josh Alexander, very underrated pro wrestler. I love the work he does in TNA. I don't think he'll ever leave TNA. I think he loves it there. I mean, it was so funny during the whole, I think it was Pinnacle or something against like the whole top team, America's top team. Yeah, no, not just that, but Brandy too. Yeah. Brandy was telling Ethan Page, we only signed you because we wanted your tag team partner to come here. That was a shot at Josh Alexander because they were known as a tag team known as the North.
TNA. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So they were the North in TNA, him and Ethan Page and Josh Alexander. So that shot just is hilarious. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, TNA, love it. Connor, for that, I want to ask you about just how is it that TNA, well, it's a two-part question. Sorry, buddy, you get a two-part question. But how is it that TNA, keeps the fan base that it's keeping for so long? It's been like 20 years that it's been around, but almost 20 years. But B, how do they, maintain creative, now that Scott D'Amore is gone?
First one, they got a lot of diehard fans. That's the only explanation for that. If anyone knows the Total Nonstop Impact, they're the ones who inspired me to create this podcast. There's one guy there named Bill. Golly, he could be the only fan there, and he'd be front row every single show. I don't know if anyone knows that I'm talking about. Him's Bill. He's at every show front row. He has been for the past, 2 decades. There was like 30 people. He was one of them. There could be 2 people there. He'd be one of them. They got a lot of diehard fans that will support them, do the bad, the ugly, when things didn't look like there was gonna be another show. They stuck around and supported. It's hard to find fans like that stick around no matter what. And how do they manage create booking and stuff like that? It's definitely got to be tough. A lot of people, a lot of Josh Alexander and Motor City Machine Guns, a lot of them loved Scott D'Amore. Like if you guys seen his passionate promo when they brought back TNA, golly, like you could see the passion in Scott D'Amore that he had for everyone. A lot of people love Scott D'Amore. And I remember the entire roster sent a press release to Anthem on them wanting them to bring Scott D'Amore back. But they also do have a lot of other creative people. They got Gail Kim for the women's division, or maybe more now. They got who else? Another name. Tommy Dreamer. He's there doing some stuff. I know they signed Ace Steel, CM Punk's trainer. He's a producer there. They got different people. It seems like they're on the same course as they were with Scott D'Amore. I don't know how it is backstage. It might be different in that aspect, but it seems like they're consistently putting good stuff out. They signed Alexander Hammerstone. I thought they was never going to sign him because they made him so cheap with money, but they signed him. And it seems like before Scott D'Amore left, they were signing a lot more people too. Dana Brooke, Mustafa Ali, and they're still bringing people back. Like they brought Eric Young's partner from Sanity, who he was with him in NXT. They brought him to TNA. But they're bringing a lot of new people in. So it's definitely a team effort. And I remember hearing Dolph Ziggler talk about this. Nick Nemeth, who is in TNA now, he mentioned that when he's there, like it's not like you don't have to go to one specific person. Like they have so many people to go to for stuff that it's more what's the word I'm looking for? More accessible. So like if you need something, you don't necessarily have to bug. Well, when Scott D'Amore was there, he's the head booker. You don't always have to bug the head booker. You can go to someone else and you'll get it handled. So it looks like they have a very good structured backstage environment, which is really surprising for how long they almost went out of business. But that's all thanks to Scott D'Amore. If it wasn't for Scott D'Amore, TNA probably would have went out of business. But he brought it from the ground up and created a good backstage locker room, great product. Like I really believe if TNA was on a bigger network, a lot of people would have appreciated a lot of stuff Scott D'Amore had done, and they would have really knew about it more because Scott D'Amore is a very great booker and a very great leader, which he's proven that. I wish a lot of people would have been able to really see that. But it's definitely I've been a TNA fan since I wouldn't say day one because I was only 2 years old when it started. But as I said many times, like TNA is what I got into first. It wasn't WWE. I mean, I watched WWE, but TNA is what got me hooked to wrestling. Yeah, they got as Chris Jericho said, they really are hard to kill.
Yeah, no, I've actually been following TNA since the start, back when it was TNA NWA, when they were still in that merger with both promotions. And they didn't even have a title. It was just the NWA title that was always basically the title to pass in the company. So I remember it from day one. And I was intrigued by it. I was intrigued by the 6-sided ring. I've never seen it before, and it was something different. So, but I agree with it is that, a TNA, the diehard fans are going to be there for that company, no matter what, even with Scott D'Amore gone. I know recently there was one pay-per-view before it started. Eric Young came out on stage because he was one of the very first few people to actually, begin his career in TNA. Was the first real company that signed him before he went over to WWE, NXT as, with Sanity. But Eric Young in TNA, he's become like a locker room leader over there. And he did this big speech, before the pay-per-view after they let Scott D'Amore go and basically said, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here, no matter what it calls for us, whether you guys are here or not, we're going to still be here because we want to be here. And so I think it's very, it's not detrimental, but it's more, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's very true to their heart, as it were, that they love that company. Someone like an Eric Young who had really good stuff in WWE. He was doing producing work backstage as well. And just to say, I'm going to let my contract up, I'm going back to TNA. That says a lot to someone who's loyal to a company like that. To leave $1 billion company making what he was probably making over there was good money, to go to a TNA just because he loves that company, because that company gave him his start. And it's so crazy to think that a lot of wrestlers do that. A lot of wrestlers go back to the company that really gave them a big break and made them a star. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of AEW guys letting contracts run out to go back to WWE, because Triple H, when he ran NXT, was making stars. And a lot of those guys are over at AEW right now. Are some of them going to go back to WWE? We don't know. We don't know what the future holds for that. But yeah, that fan base is going to be there no matter what. Speaking of that, let's transition into that. One of the topics I want to talk about is the fan base of all these promotions. And the one word we bring up all the time is tribalism. It's always these people saying, I am loyal to this product. Your product is crap. Okay, I'm glad you found your product, but you don't have to bash mine. Be respectful about it. Don't be these E-drones or these AEW toxic fans. I'll say that. I'm an AEW fan. I don't mind WWE. I'm not going to bash them. I prefer AEW. I'll watch a little bit WWE. I still watch a little TNA. but I'm not going to bash anyone. So I think with that, I think we need to talk about that and how it's just become glorified now on social media. Danny, you and I are probably the, sorry, Connor, but we're the oldest to know of pre-social media back in the day of pro wrestling. It was mostly just pro wrestling writers and magazines that we would read about stuff and just hear about stuff. We never heard it from fans about, this and that, especially during the Monday Night Wars. With social media now, do you think it has become over glorified of just the tribalism that happens in the pro wrestling fandom?
Absolutely. And I'm thinking back to when I was a kid. I was probably 6 or 7 years old. And I think I was reading Uncle Dave back then. And I'm older than both of you guys. And I just remember like seeing pictures of, it might have been Dusty, God bless his soul. It might have been Flair, but I remember it was black and white and there was blood gushing from his face. And my grandma bought me the magazine. God bless Grandma Helen. She knew I loved it. And I just remember reading Uncle Dave. And then I'm like, Dave Meltzer, I know that name. And I'm like, oh my God, I read him when I was a kid. And this, we're talking like early 80s. And I'm sitting there and I'm, again, one of my favorite columnists, you guys know, is Mr. Tito on No DQ and Aaron Risco's site. Yep. Virtue is also another one of my favorites. And I'm just thinking back to like 25 years ago. You didn't have the internet. The internet was in its infancy stage. You didn't have the spoilers. You didn't have people. You didn't even have Twitter. You didn't have people on Facebook. You didn't have basically anything. So you didn't know what was going on. The internet, again, ruined pro wrestling to a degree because now you know what's going on. Now with this, and I consider myself to be funny. I consider myself to be sarcastic. And when I post things in different groups about, different polls or anything like that, I do it with a sense of humor. And everyone's like, oh, well, you hate AEW. You're an AEW hater. You're a Tony Khan hater. You're a Bucks hater. No, actually, I'm not. I'm asking legit questions from somebody that has seen firsthand toxic leadership. Number two, from a wrestling fan who has never seen a promotion run like AEW. And I feel to some degree like Tony Khan's he's treating AEW like a business because he's a business owner. But I feel like it's a project for a finance class. Like he's basically toying with us, like, here's money. Okay, we're going to throw that at the problem versus sitting down and figuring out what the problem is and how to resolve it from the business aspect. And there was a joke that somebody came up with that Tony Khan throws money at real life, at human action figures regarding his wrestlers. So I was just kind of like, I was cracking up at that one. I thought that was kind of funny, but I think, again, you've got fans of WWE, you have fans of TNA, you have fans of AEW, and it's okay to like one, it's okay to like the other, it's okay to like both. But when somebody like me comes along and posts something, calm down, chill, because I'm not trying to badmouth anybody. And again, I'm going to ask this question. If I didn't like AEW, why do I have 5 shirts in my closet? I've been to 3 Dynamites, a Collision, and All Out, and I'm going to All Out again this year, most likely. So if I hate AEW, answer me that. Why would I be giving them my money for merchandise? And I spent $70 on 2 shirts at All Out last year at the United Center.
Yeah, I mean, if that doesn't scream, I'm devoted to this product, I don't know what does. But Connor, let me ask you that then, taken from what she was saying about it. That basically, it's not just toxicity from one fan base to another. It's within the fan base of all the products. They're very toxic towards each other. Why do you think that is?
I counter this every day on Twitter. I've always wanted to talk about this. I feel like I'm CM Punk fixing to give my whole life story, like he did on Ariel Helwani's show. People want wrestling one specific way. Then, for example, you got the AEW fan base. Certain people like it this way. Certain people like it this way. If you like stories in wrestling, you're just a WWE fan. Just go watch WWE if you want stories. AEW is where the wrestlers just matches. And then, it's okay to have both in one company. I mean, I don't get why you can't have both good wrestling and stories in the one show. No one has to be. It's just, I hate to say it, but it's a lot of internet troll virgins on Twitter who just want it their way. And they don't care if, they just want everyone to agree on everything. You can't disagree with them. If you disagree with them, you're a WWE fan, you hate AEW, you want them to go out of business, all this. And I get called out. I mean, I am a WWE fan. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I mean, when Triple H has started taking over, I have started liking him a little bit. My favorite wrestler is CM Punk. I'm going to watch wherever he goes. And I like what he's doing there. And I like other wrestlers in WWE as well. Tiffany Stratton, probably number 2. CM Punk 1, Tiffany Stratton 2. I like a lot of guys in WWE. I still like AEW. I mean, the reason I got back into WWE is because of CM Punk, but some stuff to me is a little bit better in AEW. And there's certain stuff in AEW that I like better in WWE. It's okay to like both. Certain fans don't like that. You can only like one product. If you like WWE, you should just stay over there. That's what their mindset is. I've encountered it. For a while I trashed WWE because the product really did suck. To me, it did at least. But it has gradually gotten better, and I've enjoyed more stuff of it. But in today's world, you can't. It's just crazy. You have to agree with everyone, and if you don't agree with everyone, then they just bash you, tell you suck, you're all this and that. That's why I wish the internet didn't exist, honestly. Like Ethan said, even though I wasn't in the Attitude Era stuff, when I did get into wrestling, I started watching wrestling 2004, 5, maybe 2004. I don't remember. But I didn't really pay attention to the internet. I thought everything was real. I hated CM Punk because that's weird of me to say, but I hated CM Punk because he beat Jeff Hardy. Everything was real to me. I didn't care who said this online or this is what's going to happen here. I just watched it for the fun of it. I missed that. But on the other hand, the internet is good because we get to do stuff like this, and never would have met anyone on here and interviewed so many people without the internet. I wish a lot of those internet trolls would come on here so I could actually say this stuff to them because I've always wanted to actually say it in front of a lot of people. That's my
and that's why I asked the question. And I know it's crazy. To be, it's what we have. It's freedom of speech. It's basically what we have. We're allowed to speak our mind and have that freedom to say what we want to say about things. But there is also a limit of, like I said, that tribalism and the attacking of someone just because of something that is just entertainment. That is what upsets me most. When I go to my groups, my wrestling groups, and I see people just bashing one product and calling each other names. I'm listen, we don't need any of that. Even I will give an example, and I'm sure people have heard or read, but about Ruby Soho. She's having a kid. That is the news coming out. Sorry to spoil everybody, but word is Ruby Soho and Angela Parker, who they're a real life couple, by the way. They're together in real life. So the story is great too. They're having a baby. And I'm that's awesome. They're going to be parents. And there's always that jerk in the comments, man, that kid's going to be weird, or that kid's going to come out with blue hair, or, that's the worst mom that can have a kid. Are you serious right now? You're going to attack a new mother who's about to have her first kid with someone she loves, and you're going to attack them for that. It is just the toxicity of that just upsets me the most. It's these people are still people. These wrestlers are still humans. You know, like Connor said, he follows CM Punk. He's going to follow CM Punk no matter where he goes. He can go to TNA. Connor's going to go watch TNA. He's going to go to New Japan. Connor's going to watch New Japan. Yep. It doesn't matter. You know, you can have your favorite wrestlers. You can have your product. But just don't get that toxic of attacking people who prefer something over the other. There's people out there that are not going to bash other products. And we've said it multiple times. I think multiple people have said it on this podcast. All these wrestlers are friends. They're all friends in real life from all these promotions. They're happy for each other. You know, there's times when I guarantee you look at Ruby Soho's like Instagram right now. I guarantee you someone in WWE that she's friends with is commenting on there right now. Someone like Liv Morgan who's going, girl, I'm so happy for you. So proud. I can't wait to meet the bundle of joy. Guarantee that's what's going to be on the Instagram. It's someone from WWE, you know, someone from TNA who, you know, will comment under something. You know, they're all friends. You know, we just need to enjoy what we enjoy. It is entertainment for a reason. Hence why I wanted to bring it up as a topic tonight, a state of pro wrestling. There's a lot going on. And yeah, I kind of agree with Ethan. Not everybody are friends through the company. Obviously, there's 7 people in AEW that CM Punk don't like, but that's cool. That's how it is, you know. But that's life. You know, that you're going to have friends. You're going to have people you don't talk to or get along with. That's fine. You move past it. You know, you don't dwell on it. And that's why I think I'm sick and tired of seeing these WWE fans saying, oh, AEW is going to fail, blah, blah, blah. They're not getting people in the audience. Well, Raw didn't really sell out on Monday. It didn't really sell out. There were still tickets available like towards like the second hour. You know, so they didn't sell out. You know, no shows sell out. Those numbers are inflated from all these companies. AEW does it. WWE does it. You know, I guarantee you TNA does it. But, you know, they don't flaunt their numbers. They just go and put on a show, and that's it. That's what TNA does. I think that's why I prefer a lot of TNA stuff over a lot of WWE and AEW. Just because they just go and put on a show. Danny, it looks like you wanted to say something. You had your hand up.
Yeah. So and the cat, Stella's just like laying right here. And I've noticed that, Jason, we miss you if you're listening. She's not like running back and forth. So now she's kind of chill and calm. But I'm just sitting here and I wanted to just kind of, again, circle back, Adam, what you were saying. Ruby Soho is like one of the cutest people in AEW. She's unique. I love the artwork. And she looks honestly much better now than she did in WWE. Like, this was like a good makeover for her. And I actually prefer her with the short hair. And she's so stinking adorable, as is Angelo Parker. And he's just, they're just like so cute together, and good for them that they're having a baby. But then there's also the rumors that going around that people were saying, oh, that she prefers women, that they're finding it hard to believe that she actually is in a relationship with a guy. And it's kind of like, okay, really? So what does that have to do with anything? And then the second thing too that I wanted to point out is, yeah, I mean, it's like she's having a baby. She's having her first one. She's excited. Be excited for her, you know, with that. And then the second thing too, I'm just getting a flashback to what Primetime turned into when you had Heenan and Monsoon, which I just watch it just for the storyline between the two of them and the comedic effect, like when they both walked off the set type thing. Then you had Piper on, and today's Piper's birthday, God bless Piper's soul. And then you had then it went into like that 5-man panel. Then they eliminated it and they went to Raw. Well, remember the first episode of Raw? Was it a good ratings thing? I don't know, but think about when Raw started. Think about where WWE was back then in the early 90s. Think about where WCW was back in the early 90s. I mean, you had Kevin Nash as Vinny Vegas and Oz. You had Scott Hall as the Diamond Stud, managed by DDP. You had all kinds of different things going on. You had the Horsemen. You had Fred Ottman, who fell over that piece of plywood as the Shockmaster, and everyone was laughing on the Flair for the Gold. So we think about what we had back then, then all of a sudden, Raw starts picking up ratings a little bit. Then Eric Bischoff comes in, he does his magic. He creates Nitro. Then Nitro was the show, and what beat Raw for 83 weeks was Nitro. So just because people say things and express an opinion about AEW, that doesn't mean we want it to fail. I don't, because I like it. I like that it's different. I like that it's unique. I like the more of the freedom of speech that they have with the promos versus WWE. Because, like, look at these Swerve and Joe segments. You're not going to have that in WWE. That's going to be like a watered down Diet Coke, and who wants to drink that? So it's very different. And I think that people, I like to joke on this, that the people that are saying that you want AEW to fail are the ones that are hammered on the Cucamonga Kool-Aid.
There you go. Connor, Connor, I want to hear your take on that, about everything, about how Raw started and where it's at now, and where AEW is at now. Like it's pretty much similar trajectories on how both started.
This is weird because I was just thinking about this a few days ago. Exact same thing your guys are saying. I was thinking about. WWE was the biggest. They were the only company really in America. The golden era. WWE started to get kind of cartoonish. You had a berserker, you had a garbage man, a clown, a goon, a Brooklyn brawler. You had about anybody from Sesame Street on WWE.
Isaac Yankum.
Yeah, like you had anybody, any kind of cartoonish character you had, and a lot of people were kind of getting still with that. The WCW was always around, but it just never was on a bigger level like WWE. Eric Bischoff comes in, Nitro happens. They get Hogan, Luger, Savage. They got their own big stars like Sting and Vader. They signed a lot of ECW guys, and Eddie Guerrero, Psychosis, Rey Mysterio, Jericho, and they demolished WWE for a long time. And then WWE decided to stop sucking, and then they brought it to WCW and put them out of business. It's not exactly what's going on right now, but it's kind of similar. WWE sucked for a while. AEW came in and was the alternative, and a lot of people were sick of WWE, and they got a lot of better product, and now WWE got better, and it's kind of the same thing a little bit. Not exactly the same, because I don't see AEW going out of business. I don't think if they do go out of business, it's not going to be like it was in the Monday Night Wars. It's not going to be like that, because Tony's got a lot of money. But yeah, it's very weird. I was going to say something. I forgot what I was going to say. I hate when that happens. I was really good.
Lost for words. I'm shocked.
It was really good what I was going to say. And then you asked that question, didn't I?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, because Danny got on the rant about Ruby Soho and everything.
Ruby Soho.
Yeah. Side note though, I saw Ruby Soho when she was Heidi Loveless, in her last indie run, before she was signed to WWE. So I remember that. So what's that, Connor?
Yeah. So it's okay. Like any promotion, I've had a lot of people on Twitter, even someone I consider a friend. Why do you like WWE? You're a fake AEW fan. Go F yourself, this and that. And you get personal with it. It's like, come on, dude. Like, I mean, I can like WWE and AEW. I mean, I know I've said I've never liked WWE in the past, but things have shifted a little bit, And I don't watch, well, if CM Punk never would have went back to WWE, I probably would never start watching back again. But because he's there, I'll start, like when I watch something for one specific person, I like to watch other things too. So I like Tiffany Stratton. I've always liked AJ Styles. I like LA Knight. There's a lot of guys in WWE I've always liked. And it's okay to like more than one thing. But it is okay to still criticize stuff you don't like. Like in AEW, we do that all the time here, but it's not like we want to go out of business. Like there's a difference between criticizing and wanting them to go out of business. Like certain people are just like they just hate AEW since the beginning. They don't want it to exist. There's other fans who like AEW and they want to see them succeed, but they give criticism to see what they want to be improved. A lot of people take that the wrong way and they think you just hate it. Everybody hates AEW. Anybody that says anything bad about AEW, or vice versa, anything that says anything bad about what they like, they want it to go out. That's not the case. It's okay to like the product and still criticize.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And Roy had mentioned that it's more edgy. WWE has become more edgy now, which you see it in creative with Hunter. He's almost kind of bringing back that Attitude Era edge to it, So I kind of see where Roy is coming from, but yeah, no, I agree that it's okay to criticize something, to put your input in it, but not wish ill will upon it. There's people that it's getting bad to the point that Liv Morgan accidentally injured Rhea Ripley last week, and Rhea Ripley's actually hurt, and she's got to recover now. It's funny because it's what happened to Liv from Rhea. When Rhea turned on Liv, hurt her and put her on the shelf for a while, freak accident. Same thing here. Liv accidentally puts Rhea out of it. But they're playing the part so well. But these fans, these WWE fans are so deep in it. I mean, Liv retweeted a video of a fan, sitting by his computer going, God, I'm praying to you, let Liv Morgan get really, really hurt because she's a terrible person doing that for Rhea. And Liv just replied, says, okay, this guy likes to enjoy himself into a sock. What was the quote?
Yeah.
From Liv Morgan. And it's great. It is great. It is one thing to wish ill will on either an individual in the promotion or the promotion itself. It is much more easier to criticize, it's easier to criticize and say what you like and don't like, instead of saying, I hate that, I hope it doesn't exist anymore. It's dark. It is dark and negative, and you got to get rid of that. So I think that was the big part that really reason why I wanted to do this episode tonight was just the toxicity of fans. And I know we talk about it all the time on the show, me in particular. I think everybody on this podcast and part of this group knows how much I hate tribalism and the toxicity that pro wrestling fans are. I think someone said it best on a pro wrestling site. Pro wrestling fans are the most toxic fans I have ever met in my life. Well, either that or Star Wars fans. So you could say either one of them. But I can say that it really deepens. It hurts. Right? I'm like, I can enjoy all the wrestling I want. I just prefer one product over the other, and I'm allowed to criticize AEW. Hell, we did a whole Talking Elite episode about the assessment of Tony Khan.
That was a good one.
I was like, we're going to assess it because we got to talk about some things. We need some fixing in the freaking company. We want it to succeed, but we need it to do this. So I think that was a good episode to do it on. So I think coming up hour and 15 minutes, we're winding down here. I want to get your guys' final thoughts on something. I want to get your guys. I know we do this a lot, but I want to get predictions. I want to get predictions in a year. Where are we going to see these two big companies? I know we talk about TNA. We feel like TNA is going to be around for a long time. They'll still be around another year. But let's talk about AEW, WWE. Danny, where do you see both companies at a year from now?
I see myself attending shows. I don't know where, but I'm going. And I'm also making plans for WrestleMania 41. Rumor has it it's going to be in Minnesota at Minneapolis. So I'm making plans to go to WrestleMania next year. Where do I see? First thing I see is Roman coming back, for starters, and possibly forming a new group that's going to feud with the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa, and who was it? It was Tama Tonga, I believe.
Tama Tonga, yeah.
And then there's the kid that was Micah in TNA. That's Haku's other son, but I can't think of his name off the top of my head. And I think he's a new.
That may be
too? Yeah. So, and I basically said I wanted him in AEW, which I think would be interesting because I did like him as Micah. I just see Roman coming back, getting the Usos turning face. And at this point, if Roman was a face, I think he would get over really well because you have to be get over as a heel. I feel like to be a face, I see them feuding, a new group feuding. I do see one of my loves in oh my God, sorry. WWE, sorry, I had to figure out which one I was talking about. Yeah. Him winning a title, put a title on the guy. Stop thinking he's a freaking mid-card. I'd rather watch him. I hate to say this, than AJ Styles. I like AJ Styles, but there's something about Knight. Knight is charismatic. Love the guy. And that's one of the reasons why I would go to SummerSlam. Punk, I see in this feud going on with Drew and with Seth. They could cut another promo. I could listen to them talk for like 2 hours. That's how good they are together in those promos. And Drew's gotten, I remember when we were watching WrestleMania, I go, that's Drew McIntyre. I'm like, Drew McIntyre. Oh shit. Okay. But so that definitely see AEW. I do see Scott D'Amore coming over at some point. Motor City Machine Guns are rumored on their way here. Could they bring him over there? And what would happen? And I've said that Tony Khan needs to put someone else in creative and just sign the checks. At some point, I want to see Omega back, but at one point I question JP coming back, and I question the Bucks if maybe Papa Khan's going to come in there and say enough's enough. I'm taking over at this point.
Yeah, good call.
That's
Connor.
kind of what I see.
Yeah, Connor, where do you see both companies at a year from now?
I think WWE is going to go on this upward trend that they've been going on. A lot of people thought it was going to die after WrestleMania, but they got a lot of good feuds to look forward to. You know, Punk and McIntyre, the Bloodline versus Bloodline. Jake Fatu is signed with WWE. I'm pretty sure they're already trying to get Zilla Fatu and a bunch of others. Haku has 2 daughters, the Tonga twins. They're very young. I could see them. Yeah, they got a whole bunch of people. You know, I saw Jey Uso's training his son now. Yeah, they got the next 4 generations of Samoans coming your way. We'll be seeing.
Wow. Okay.
Well, that's just the history of it. You know, Roman will have a kid, and his kid will have a kid, and then this is going to keep on going. Like that family will never die in wrestling. I think they'll go on their upward trend. I think hopefully LA Knight is a champion. Enter US. I don't care what title it is really, because they don't have a 24/7 title anymore. So he can have any title. Because when you say any title, it could be 24/7. Luckily, we almost threw it in the trash. Nikki Cross missed. I wish they would redo that and actually throw it in the trash. But AEW, I really hope Scott D'Amore is signed. I know Tony Khan said today that someone asked him would he ever consider hiring a booker or him, you know, taking a step back, and he said that him running AEW is the joy of his life, really, or what he does every day. I feel like, you know, I think he should always be somewhat involved because it is his company, you know. But I'm going to put it in the comments. I hate to do it, but I didn't post it even in our group chat because I know some people would get offended by that. But I wrote a petition. I've talked about it earlier. I made a petition for Scott D'Amore to be over, basically head booker of Collision. I'd like to see, you know. Give me 1 second. I'll put this on charge.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that, Connor, where Tony Khan, no, I'm going to do all the booking. It's my joy in life. Yeah, we know what your other joy in life is, but I'm going to be nice at this point. I'm not going to say another word.
I think he's got a lot on his plate. Dynamite, Collision, Rampage, ROH, pay-per-views, Jaguars, football team in UK, his media stuff. He's doing all this stuff. Like, there's no way you can keep everything consistently good. You know, it's just really hard to do that. I feel like starting Scott D'Amore off with Collision would be a perfect start. I don't think, maybe one day Scott D'Amore is the head booker of AEW. Scott D'Amore has a very he said this entire podcast. If that doesn't get the point across, I don't know what will. But he's a very great locker room leader. You won't see anyone talk bad about him. And if you do, there's more telling about them than about Scott D'Amore. Scott D'Amore is a very great business person, very great leader. He's the leader that AEW needs. AEW needs that leadership, and D'Amore will be that person. So in a year's time, I hope they've got him signed, head booker of Collision or something. I would hope that, which I'm sure Tony would. Martina and AEW had that kind of partnership a little bit. Christian Cage and all that. Scott D'Amore and Tony were quite friends, it seemed like. But I hope that AEW has signed Scott D'Amore. They've improved on their storytelling. We get hopefully a streaming deal, because I really want to go back and watch all the stuff that I was at I can't watch. I hope I feel like a lot of this, when Jack Perry comes back, like if like they really, that's why they need Scott D'Amore, that's not going to put up with that. Like, you do it again, you're gone. Like an example for everybody, you start stuff
in there. I'll do it.
Like, there's a professional way to handle things and not escalate to a brawl out or all in or all this bull crap. But I hope that AEW, I don't think they'll ever, I'm not going to say, I won't say ever, but I don't know if they'll get back to the way they were in 2021, which you can't really duplicate something, but maybe they can get to something even better. But in a year's time, I'm going to put it in the comments. If anyone is, I hate to do this, but.
No, I mean, hey, the more the merrier. If people at AEW people want to see it succeed, we as the fans have to get in there and let it be known what we want. Scott D'Amore, yeah. So for me, I think in a year, I will make one prediction. WWE will have another big WrestleMania weekend. WrestleMania 41 is going to be huge. It's going to be on par with this year's, You're going to have a lot of good matchups. I see also Gunther winning a world title. I think Gunther will win a world title. I think it'll probably be the world title. I think he'll be the world heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
I think he stays on Raw and wins that title. And I think Jey Uso finally wins an individual title within the next year.
Yes.
For AEW, again, I think we're all on par here. Is we all want Scott D'Amore. I mean, there's no way around our decision. We want Scott D'Amore and AEW to book things. We want Tony Khan to take a step back from booking a little bit. We want him to be the business owner and the CEO of the company. We want him to run it and make it successful, but we also need someone with that pro wrestling mind that is also great with talent. Scott D'Amore has that. And Scott D'Amore would be a great addition to AEW. I also see MJF back and not in WWE. I think he goes.
I missed him so much.
I think he re-signed his contract. I think he's booked another 2 years in AEW. I think he signs another 2 to 3 years, so he'll be with them for a couple more years because there's still story there with him. And I think he loves it. I think the schedule works for him. So, and then I do eventually see MJF win the world title back. So I mean, it's there. So and maybe Adam Cole wins the title. We don't know. But yeah, no, so good show tonight, guys. Thoroughly enjoy the conversation with you guys. I enjoy everybody commenting in the comments, made some great points in the comments for always joining us here on this show. We put out a lot of content. And yeah, I agree, Jazzy. I hope TK sees this and the episode that we did on the assessment of him. Because Tony, you see this? We love you, buddy, but you need the help. You
need to sign the checks and shut your mouth, basically.
Yes, you need the help with booking, man.
And
we want to see a good product.
And fire the Bucks too, because they're not doing anything for your company. Oh, sorry, I didn't say that. One question I wanted to ask you guys, and this was making the rounds, and I don't know if you caught this, but Bully Ray was on David LaGreca's show, Busted Open, and Bully Ray said he'll work for free. What does everybody in the chat think of Bully Ray coming to AEW? Do you think AEW or Bully Ray would clash with Tony Khan or anyone in AEW? What do you guys think of Bully Ray going to AEW? Backstage?
Good question. Yeah, everybody comment that, your thoughts. I mean, share it, everything like that.
I'm just curious because
answers. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys knew this, but I actually was featured on Busted Open.
I have been too.
When Punk a couple years ago, when Punk was back, and Bully Ray scared the crap out of me. Like I was like, "Hi, Mr. Ray, how are you?" Like I was like okay. And he asked me, and I said, I don't like the Bucks. I think they're boring AF, which I do, and there's like nothing special about them, and they're just kind of, oh, okay, I'm gonna go take a potty break. And Bully Ray just like really has got like such an intensity about him. And it's not even the character, but the man behind the character. I think he would do good. And if he was in AEW, we wouldn't have the stuff going on that we have where we're prancing around the ring on Collision and stuff like that. And I think it would be more of like a better product. And again, I'm going to Connor, speaking of you, when I saw this, I'm in where was I was at Dynamite Thanksgiving, and it was at the Wintrust because it's a smaller arena. I've got this big old Punk sign up, and I think I told you guys the story when I'm like F the Bucks, F the Elite, really loud. This guy behind me, he's like F Punk, and I go, yeah, F you. And I said it so loud. My husband is downstairs. Like we were on. It's kind of a cool like small. Adam, I don't know if you've ever been to the Wintrust before, but it's a cute little arena. Yeah. So my husband's downstairs. My nephew is with us, and my nephew, he's like, Auntie, was that you that said F the Bucks? And I go, yeah. He goes, I heard you all the way downstairs. That's how loud I was. Yep. And I'm the sign girl. Like I'm the cue card girl, but I'm also moving. So I've got all my stuff we're kind of packing up here. But I'm the sign girl. And I'm going to tell it like it is. And I think that Bully Ray has got such a strong personality that he would do good in AEW as talent. And I hate to say this again, the question, where's Cody? Why did Cody leave? Did Cody leave because there's no structure? And I think between Scott D'Amore and Bully, you'd have structure and you'd have something turning around your storylines and just your relations between people.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Bully would make a great talent rep of what JR used to do in WWE. He was the talent like representative, the relations. Yeah, I think Bully Ray would be great talent relations. So, yeah, if everybody in there agrees with it, what they
drop in the chat. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
But as we're winding down here again, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I want to thank Danny and Connor, always joining us here on Talking Elite. Thank you all for commenting and, leaving some good thoughts. Love it. If you missed tonight's episode, you can rewatch it on YouTube. We are on Twitch. We're on Spotify. We do have Instagram. We have Twitter. We have Facebook. Make sure you follow us there. We're here every week. Tuesdays is our AEZ Canada shows. That's always a great show to watch. Matt does a terrific job on it as host. Wednesdays, we have our live reaction to Dynamite. Fridays, we have our reaction to Rampage. And Saturdays, we have our reaction Collision. For most part, we usually do a couple of live reactions to pay-per-views as well. We do have some interviews coming up, hopefully. Connor, when is the next one, if you have that information?
I can tell you who it is for sure. He was supposed to be on Wednesday, I believe. Doug Basham, former WWE star. His brother is Danny Basham. We possibly could get both of them on now because we had to delay it. If anyone does not know, we talked about OVW last week, but he is I believe this was after the documentary because he wasn't in that. I believe they had gotten Mickie James and Doug Basham after that. Doug Basham is a coach there, so he has a lot of responsibilities there, and his schedule is very tight. So that's why we had to, that got delayed. But he will be coming on. That will be our next interview. I'm talking to people every day. It seems like both the Prussians. Buff Bagwell is one of them. I always like the American males. There's a lot of people from old WCW legends, young wrestlers. I want to get some more women on here. We only had 2, and that was in the beginning of our podcast. I like to get a bunch of mixture wrestlers, and I did say this year will be the year of ECW, and that's not going to stop. We mentioned Bully Ray, but there's another Dudley boy that maybe will be on here sometime soon, and it may not even be Devon I'm talking about. But there's a lot of good interviews. Stay tuned to our socials for that Doug Basham interview, or possibly Basham's interview. That will be posted pretty soon. But there is no Rampage live reaction tomorrow night. Rampage is on Saturday. They're doing Rampage and Collision together on Saturday. They're doing a joint show, so we'll be there for that possibly. I think we are going to be doing a Dynasty live reaction. Siren loves doing those. So we'll be, at least me and her will be on there for that. We had a really good response last time. We had 2,000 people in here for our Revolution live reaction. I wasn't on it because I was there, but we had 2,000 people in here. So thank you all for watching this. And as we said, check AZ Canada Talking Elite every week. We got a lot of good content.
Yeah, no, always follow us, hit that like, subscribe. We always enjoy having you guys here. We all love talking pro wrestling. We're all pro wrestling fans. And if you can see the quote behind me, it is actually from AJ Mendez's book. It says, when done right, pro wrestling can and should be a work of art. So that is from, what's up?
Is AJ Mendez AJ Lee?
Yes.
AJ Brooks.
Yeah. But again, thank you guys as always for joining me, and thank you guys for always liking and subscribing and commenting. We always appreciate you guys. And if there's nothing else, as always, good night.